Father Mark, what are you doing?
I am hanging out in my mobile office down at one of my favorite places, the Peninsula.
My goodness, this must be a pandemic era stunt we're pulling here.
It is kind of a stunt because I do have COVID. I can't meet with anybody in person in any reasonable distance. So my car is safe for me and me alone. And so via the technology, we're able to do more.
So I'm grateful, Father Mark, that you're willing to have this conversation, even with all of the complexities of this weird logistical time. But I appreciate that you're in one of your favorite places, and we're going to talk about something that I know that's been important to you, is the chosen. So the first question that we've been asking everybody we've been speaking to about this is, tell me a little bit about the chosen and how it's impacted you personally.
Well, a lot of people have spoken about the chosen, so I won't go into the details about the life of Christ. I think I would like to say that the reason why I've liked the chosen is because it follows what I believe to be kind of like the Ignatian approach to things. Ignatius is not new. For the last since the 1500s, Saint Ignatius's spirituality was promoting the use of our imagination to kind of engage ourselves in the various characters of Scripture. So you could either take a known entity, one of the apostles, or the person that was healed, or whatever, and plug yourself into those scenarios so that you could better imagine what it was like to have such a personal, close encounter with Christ. And so Ignatius was doing this with simply the Scripture, but the writers and producers of The Chosen are doing this in a visual capacity. So you're using a little less of your imagination in one respect, but I think probably just as much of your imagination in another. So even though they're kind of giving us a visual clue to kind of go on, no doubt our own imaginations are connecting us there personally. And so I think it doesn't teach us all that much about Scripture because it goes above and beyond Scripture. But I think it teaches an awful lot about the humanity of the individuals, whether or not it is Jesus himself or the apostles or the other disciples or people that he healed. And so for me, I think that it takes me in a place where I wouldn't go myself. And the reason I mean is I think I've cried in every episode. And I would not, using my own imagination to pray in Ignatian's way, lead myself down a road where I'd end up crying. But the passages do that, so I know that they're helping me to go deeper and explore things that I wouldn't do specifically on my own. And so I think that I'm not unique. I'm thinking it's probably doing the same thing for most of the viewers, and that's why I think it's so powerful.
I relate to that. I think I've cried in every episode, and that's the actual reason. I haven't disclosed this, but that's actually why I haven't continued watching season 2, is because I just felt like I couldn't handle it anymore. So I'll get there. I'll get there.
Well, there was an online comment, and I think might have even been even during the first year. Somebody was saying, "Oh, if this is what I feel like now, I don't know that I'm going to handle the end." Knowing where the ending is going in terms of the Passion of Christ, I'd have to agree that after you become so enamored or so in love with the character of Jesus, you really don't want to see anything bad happen to him. But he survives in a way, and so it's for our betterment. But yeah, it's going to be rough going down the road.
Yeah. What do you think it is about Ignatian spirituality that pathway is such a rich gift in this moment in time in our church right now? What is it about that being an incredible opportunity for folks?
Well, I think for a lot of cradle Catholics, they were taught this is what will give you Scripture in terms of the liturgy of the Mass. And so sometimes Catholics often think that they don't have a decent understanding of Scripture, when in fact you got a pretty good basis of that. But we were years ago discouraged from reading Scripture And if you were to read Scripture, it was always approached from an academic level. You're only going to study this so that you can know the exegesis of the historical components of why this was written away or why it contains the stories that it does. And really, that kind of guts it emotionally. And so I think that the chosen and the Ignatian approach to to Scriptures allows us to explore things at a deeper personal level. And that's what it's about. I mean, the Scripture is not simply a good story. It's a living gospel that's supposed to engage us spiritually. And if we only approach it from an academic level, that is not going deep enough to make it a personal, life-changing experience. And so Ignatius, I think he might have been avant-garde 500 years ago at his time, but it caught on. There's people that went through his spirituality approach because they recognized that there's a lot of value in Scripture if you allow your imagination to explore it. In all honesty, we can't possibly encounter God without the use of our imagination. There's no book, there's no formula. And so it's only through the use of our imagination that we have anything of a perception of God, an encounter with God. And God gave us this gift of imagination, and He's going to use it for a main way for us to communicate with Him.